I think that there's a certain public misperception over here, which is then reflected in the way that the regulators act. So the notion that there is some punishment due if something gets out there that's ultimately unsafe, but that if an approval of a potentially useful product is endlessly delayed, or ultimately something at the end of the day is denied, then there's really no consequence. I mean, I think that that should be subjected to the most searching examination. It's the absolute antithesis of quality by design that you would block something at the end of the day and not have found some of those flaws right at the outset. So, and it's also this notion that, well, if it's a private company, then that's their problem. They lost some money. They lost $100 million. Or if it's a particular NGO that is developing products for HIV and I'm working on malaria, it's really tough and we would like it to have succeeded, but let me just proceed with my malaria product over here. That's not true. This is a sum-zero game. The 100 million lost is taken out of the whole healthcare system, and the nation states are often paying considerable sums towards R&D investments, whether they are explicit or implicit. So I think that there's a certain public awareness which needs to be created, which would potentially drive this notion of more accountability.
I would like to say that with so many countries requiring different documentation, different trials, different quality audits, we need an international body or intergovernmental body to actually manage the process of harmonization. If not global, at least regional harmonization. I think at least for medical devices and especially for in vitro diagnostics for infectious diseases, it would be a little bit dangerous to have only one body that would approve both safety and effectiveness, because difference in epidemiology of different diseases, difference in strains of pathogens would actually render some diagnostics to be effective in one region but not in another. And we've recently seen that with the test for leishmaniasis, where it works very well in India and the Indian subcontinent, but actually didn't work very well in Africa. And subsequently we found that there were quite a lot of genetic differences. And so I think that we need to think about harmonization in terms of what can we harmonize that could be global. I think standards for safety need to be global. Some of the other standards, technical standards could be global, but the effectiveness perhaps could be local or regional.
We also have another, and again, it's only in the United States, it hasn't been necessarily adopted across the globe, but it's something that we call GRAS. Generally recognized as safe, where we utilize in the United States historical information as well as a dossier of data to support the safety. But if it's generally recognized in X and you can identify and have the necessary information to satisfy the regulators, you don't necessarily get an approval. What we get is what we call a letter of no objection, where they have reviewed the dossier, they reviewed all the data that has been submitted, and at that time, they have no objection. With that said, that doesn't mean you just stand on your laurels and don't look for additional information or research and science doesn't continue. But at that point in time, they have no objections to it being used. And it's been very helpful because at the end of the day, the regulators only have so much bandwidth. And the regulators have to prioritize what they do in order to protect the public's health. So it's one type of idea and one type of model that we have adopted in the United States that has been used quite effectively with no evidence in terms of harming the public.
What I've heard from this, I think, very, very energetic discussion is that we should apply technology, we should continue to apply technology to help regulators to address a whole range of issues, through from data collection, through to assays, through to quality assessment. We should support them in some parts of their work, and we should understand them better, and that may mean providing them with resources, but that may mean exchanging with them so we understand their challenges and they understand our challenges. There should be more of a quality by design approach, and the accountability paradigm needs to be changed. We talked about this whole area of harmonization. There seems to be general consensus that you can't harmonize everything, but we need to agree those bits that can be harmonized. Should there be a single overriding harmonizing body? I suspect we'd have the same problems with them that we have with the other regulators. So how can we do that in more of a collective way? Some kind of collective oversight. Data needs to be better shared. Regulations needs to be needs-driven, and we must never forget what regulations are there for.